How's it going, everyone? Welcome back for the third time in a row. Last one today. I can't disturb anymore today. It's just catch my breath. This one was on island time as well. But Validator AMA, you all asked for it, or at least I feel like 25 of you asked for it. You answered the poll. There was a poll about, will you show up if I do a Validator AMA? Number 34. And at least around half of you said yes. So I'm like, all right, but I'll do it. Validator AMA. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, you know what? I'm going to start. If you have questions, get them in the chat. But I'm going to start from the beginning on validator stuff. So let's do it. Let me put window on the screen. And I'll show you, just to set the stage too. Go World DeFi has links to all the different stuff, including validators at the bottom here as well, including, as well as the PulseChain apps and verifiable security and bug bounty program and all that stuff too. Also buy links, great site for onboards, if I do say so myself, and even a link to onboarding. Click right there. For validators though, I'm going to start here. So navigation is going to take you to the playlist. This will be video number 80. I got to add this one to the, yay, hooray, we got to 80 videos on the validator playlist because this is the 34th AMA, which means the 80th video on this playlist. So as you can see, a ton of different videos. I put some of the more important ones at the top as well, from zero to validator. This is the one that is the closest. I don't have a step-by-step, type in this command, do this thing, go to the validator, the launch pad and do all the steps. But this is the closest one to it. I explain each step, explain how to use the scripts, super automated way. And this is what I spent a lot of time doing back a couple years ago. So it's been almost, I feel like around 2 years, 2.5 years or so, when I started getting into validating, because I knew PulseChain's going to launch. I'm curious about how validators work. I want, how do validators work? How do nodes work? What is the difference? All this stuff too. And at the time, probably a lot of people don't remember or even think about, but Ethereum was going to proof of stake. And a lot of things were changing. So I started playing around with Ethereum validators and I started doing that. And then I did that in order to, okay, if I can do validating on Ethereum, PulseChain's just a fork, almost all of this knowledge is going to transfer, if not all. I mean, it's basically the same thing. You just use different clients and, there's not much differences as far as I can tell. So I started doing Ethereum stuff, playing with testnet and stuff there and the different clients. And also this is around the time that PulseChain was launching, getting ready to launch. If people remember a month or two before launch, I started getting a lot of updates on the clients, and Richard was posting dev notes, and it seemed like, or his interpretation of them and all this stuff too. We were getting screenshots and all kinds of fun stuff, if I remember from that time. So that's when I thought, okay, I can provide some value here. I can write these automated scripts, I code, I can do this stuff, and I can come up with, this is before AI, by the way, before AI made coding and everything much, much easier. So I decided to go into this. All right, I'm going to be validators. I'm going to do validators. I'm going to learn as much as I can. I'm going to share it with people and help people and all that stuff too. So that's how this came about. I just started doing a lot of validator content. I got all these systems, how to install Linux and how, the profitability. I've answered pretty much every question, and feel free to ask questions today, but I've answered pretty much every question that you probably have. And if there's a question that I haven't answered in video format or in post format on X, please let me know, because I would love to cover that as well. I think the biggest question I get these days, or I've got in the past that is harder to answer, is how to exit a validator. And having, you have to exit a validator to really be confident in that process. And basically, I got a question on it recently, and I pointed them to the GitHub, the FAQ, which has a ton of different information across a ton of different topics. And also I used AI to be like, hey, how do I exit the PulseChain validator? And it came up with pretty much, I think, similar or the same answer. So it's actually really, and then the project idea, use AI to create a whole bunch of PulseChain content on how to do stuff, and you could publish it and give people answers on all these things too. So that being said, there is a ton of video content. There's a ton of, on the playlist here, I put tinyurl.com/go validate. I'll drop that in the chat. That is the shortcut URL to go to the blog where I wrote about how to become PulseChain Validator. Super simple steps here. So PulseChain is a fork of Ethereum 2.0, fast shipping transactions, all that fun stuff. And you can become a validator. And it's pretty cool. And this is like a screenshot of like the validator clients working. And I've explained before, like what is Geth, what is Lighthouse, what is the difference between execution client and a consensus client. I'm just forgetting terms at this point. And what is, so this is like gives you a super quick explanation, like what exactly is a validator. Virtual entity lives on the beacon chain represented by a balance, public key, and other properties. It participates in the consensus of the Ethereum network. Replace Ethereum with PulseChain there. Both networks have validators and use EVM tech and all that. What is validator client? A validator client is software that acts on behalf of the validator by holding and using a private key to make attestations about the state of the chain. A single validator client can hold many key pairs, controlling many validators. So it's a common question too, is how many, can I run more than one validator on a machine? Yes, you can run. What is the limit? And that's another thing. It's like, well, I don't know. If you have enough Pulse or ETH to start pressing the limits, then you probably can go get some really good answers for that. And you're probably well resourced too. But theoretically, I mean, it's like, I've heard some numbers thrown around, but I don't even think about it. It's like if you have most people can only run, 1, 5, 10, 100. So it's probably not even an interesting question for most people out there, but just know it's more than one. That's the important thing. What is the node operator? The node operator is a human being who makes sure the client software is running properly, maintaining hardware as needed. So what's the difference between a validator and node? Basically, just think of a validator as being a node that also validates, participates as a validator. So let me give you, I feel like, excuse me, that's what happens when you talk for hours and hours on a day. Like literally a lot of the stuff you don't even need me to tell you. Just be like, what's the difference between a PulseChain validator and node? And you'll see it'll give you even better explanation. So again, a node stores a copy of the blockchain. There's full node, there's light nodes, there's archive nodes, there's all kinds of different ones. And yeah, as it says here, so any validator, maybe this is like the key point here. Any validator is a node, but not every node is a validator. So if you're a node, a validator is a node and a validator, but nodes can just be nodes unless they are validators, and then they're doing both. So, and then validator, again, it's just a special type of node. So, so think of a node or a node as like synchronizing. Think about that, like relays, transactions, blocks. So it's a company blockchain, syncs, synchronization with the network. And then, so this is like, you can do transactions, you can, participate in the network. And then think of a validator as someone who is actually, actively participates in block production, consensus, like help secure the network, actually does proposes validates new blocks, earn rewards, all that kind of stuff too. So on the GitHub too, I'm getting ahead. There's a ton of different directions I'm gonna jump on this, but let me get through the process and I'll show you the scripts and stuff in a second. So the process is, here's the scripts. So I'll drop this in the chat as well. This evolved from being like one script to set up a validator to what's all the things we can do, like taking snapshots, backing up the client, setting up monitoring, Grafana, all that stuff, pruning, doing RPC stuff. So if you have a node set up, then for example, if you want to use your own node from, if you have one set up wherever, and you want to, instead of using Infura, the default node for Ethereum, or using PulseChain RPC or whatever, you can use your own node to do transactions and all that stuff. And this is a helper script to help you set it up to do it. Like once you, and again, all these scripts, all these scripts are specific, may need modified for other setups. There's different validator setups. There's different scripts. Gamon's got scripts, David Feeder, all this stuff too. DipSlayer, there's a lot of different people working on validator stuff and have either instructions or scripts or otherwise. So a lot of these will work with this repo and may need adjusted for other stuff. But there's a ton of stuff you can do if you're running a node, if you're running a validator and stuff with PulseChain. And this is the main repo that has all the scripts, has all the instructions, has the FAQ, has the detailed like step-by-step how to do this stuff. And yeah, it takes you through validator setup. Again, a lot of it's automated. Almost all the everything that could be automated in a reasonable fashion has been automated with these scripts. That's the difference between the instructions and scripts. Scripts you can run and they do stuff for you. And some scripts do a little bit, some try to do everything. And then instructions are just like commands you type in to do this, to do what a script would do, but just not automated. So they're like manual process. So I love automating stuff. I like making things as easy as possible. Well, it's not easy to automate setup for these things. That was a pretty fun challenge as well. So this is what I like about that. And it helps you do a whole bunch of different things with your validators. And it tells you the different requirements. Again, huge table of contents, ton of reading material. Each one of these things it talks about, I have probably covered, and maybe more than once, in video format. So you got a choice when you're doing validators. Do you want to do the video format? Do you want to do the long form content? This is kind of like an easy FAQ to go back and forth. And what kind of server specs do you need? What are minimum requirements? How long does it take to sync the blockchains? Blockchain clients. Can I run more than one validator? We covered that. I want to add more validators. How do I do that? How do I see the statistics? What if it stops working? How much does it cost to be a validator? What is the, there's different effectiveness stuff, little nuances like that. It talks about rewards. What is the maintenance involved? What kind of internet connection do I need? Which, again, not much is the general advice there. And then how to set up a test net versus a mainnet one. Can't figure this out, go watch some videos, that kind of thing too. Different help resources as well, and a ton of different links and pieces that went into this. So let me go back to this part. So the community has built open source scripts to make the validator, becoming a validator running your own node much easier. So again, I wrote this like 2 years ago when everything first came out and everything was buzzing and everybody's validators and all that fun stuff. And then it does require, so the biggest thing, the other barrier, so why does everyone become a validator? And when I say become a validator, I mean like solo, like running your own hardware, whether it's in the cloud or at home. And I have like, what's the difference between those? I have all that content too. So after you've got the hardware, it takes some time. It may take 1, 2, 3 days to sync the blockchain, do all this stuff. You got to import your keys. I'll go through the whole process. But it requires you to know some Linux command line, the basics about hardware networking, just to make sure like you know how to set things up. But it's really, it does require a little bit of nerdiness. Now, you don't have to become a validator by setting up your hardware and stuff. There's other protocols and DeFi, and we have stuff on PulseChain where you can do liquid staking and all these things where you're not running the validator yourself. Someone's running it for you, or some protocol's doing it, and you're just providing the PLS or something like that. And there's different incentives and ways to do it and all those things too. But if you want to, again, run your own validator, like do like the basic fundamentals of participating, turning out, making PLS, all that stuff. This is how you do it. Shout out to Richard, PLS validator, rememed it. So step 1, get the hardware. Again, there's minimum requirements. So you can either get your own. I talk about it here. I've used link in the thing, hardware. So the minimum requirements are around this. Again, I've got by with 16 gigs of RAM because I do mine in the cloud, and the less specs you do, you can get by with, and the cheaper it is. So I've been able to reduce my costs and stuff using less memory. But most of the other things are kind of, again, they're not super intensive, but they need a kind of beefy machine, a mid-tier machine that can at least have 16 to 32 gigs of memory. I would recommend 32, but again, I've got a lot more experience than most on the validators, trimming down, doing these little things, and it made a little nervous when I was thinking about validator. But that's the hardest part. Is syncing at 16 gigs is hard, but once you're synced, things that seem to run, at least in my experience, run pretty good after that. So anyways, these are the minimum recommended. And then you can do it at home. or in the cloud as well. So a lot of people, they like having a box burning in the corner or in the closet or wherever, and there's different pros and cons with that. You got battery backup, you got to make sure networking is good, security is good, all that stuff. I talk a lot about security for these things as well. Or you can do the cloud and you can set it up there. And I have guides on how to do it in the cloud. If you go up, actually the security section is pretty good. And I don't think I've never seen another security map like this. I feel like this is pretty original content too. I came up with this like basically a security model for validators for your keys and stuff. So this is pretty interesting if you're actually curious about the different implications of like private keys and stuff and validators. I feel like this is pretty unique and valuable. I was like, I want to get the story straight on this. I want to figure this out. It's very hard to figure out because not a lot of people, have the experience and talk about it and stuff. So that was fun. And so security side, I talked about graffiti, withdrawing. Again, these are kind of like the, exiting all that stuff too. Again, AI makes all this stuff more, because if I'm going to exit today, for example, I'm going to use AI to be like, here's my situation, like make sure this is like correct. And I'm going to like double check a lot of this stuff with that. Because if it's hard to write about exiting if you don't exit or have experience doing a lot of that. So back to this one, get the hardware, whether you rent it in the cloud or if you have it at home or wherever. Second step, install Linux. So I talked about Ubuntu here, and that's what's supported by the scripts and all that. I think I actually tested on 24. I'm not sure, 22 or 24. I'm not testing a newer one there. Maybe it's just still 22. I'm not sure. It's been a couple of years on that piece. So install Linux, get it set up, all that stuff, and then download and run the script. So the script, the main setup script, is this one. Let's see, where is it? PulseChain Validator setup. So this is the main script that does all the stuff, tries to automate all the things that it can. So you run that, and again, I got videos on like how to do that, and talk about a lot of them there. And then after you run the script, and a lot of it's been automated there, you do the manual stuff. So the biggest thing manually here is securely generating your keys and specifying your withdrawal address. Must do those things well. That's the thing you have to prepare for. Make sure you're able to securely generate your keys and you give it the right withdrawal address. Two critical things in the process, and they're manual steps. And then this is where the fees you earn as a validator will be sent automatically, and where the contract will return your deposit, 32 million pulse per validator, if and when you exit the network as validator. And I've talked about this process. After you run the script, you just click here. It takes you through the whole thing, your different options of how to do it, all those pieces. And then step 5, sit back and relax. Congrats, yeah, welcome to the party. So you can look at your withdrawal earnings. Actually, this is, we used to have Beacon Explorer, but now it links to, let's see, Validator Dashboard, is it? Yeah, so Validator Dashboard has some stuff here. And then also Gamma has some stuff. Does Gamma do a validator one? Yeah, I think there's kind of like a Beacon Explorer type stuff here as well. Maybe we'll have an official one again one day. Maybe we'll just have community built ones. But yeah, there's some pieces there. Let me duplicate this and just wait for it. It may take a little bit. Okay. And then go back to this one. Yeah, this one you can, like this is a validator. You can see this deposit pending, active, its balance, effectiveness, different events happening, status, all that stuff too. So there's a couple different options, validator dashboard, and Gamma's got a piece here too. Gamma also has RPC resources and all that. And then there is the regular maintenance. So you can look at the maintenance. It's pretty minimal, I think. I'm basically just pruning once every 6 months or every year or so. And again, once you get into it, you can start reading and do all that, but it's pretty minimal as far as maintenance and stuff goes for the cloud. Now there's software maintenance, which is pretty minimal, but then there's physical maintenance, which may be, again, make sure you have reliable internet connection, make sure you have battery backup. If you're doing this stuff at home, security, segment the network, all that stuff too. All stuff that a lot of it goes away in the cloud, which makes it a little bit easier. There's different trade-offs. So all these questions, again, I answer them in the FAQ. If I haven't answered some question, let me know, and I can definitely look at editing it. And I think what else? We got 80 videos. We got a whole 1 step through 5. We have automated setup, FAQ to answer all the questions, video text format on X. I just reposted actually. I made like a big validator thread because I was tired of like trying to figure out how to capture each one, and because they're kind of spread out over a few different ones. So see if I can find it. I'm tweeting a lot lately. Validators, where are you? Any questions, get them in, because I'm about to wrap up here in just a few minutes. Hopefully this gives you, if you don't have any direct questions, hopefully I've either answered them, or if you're watching this later, you can feel free to comment, or at RHMax on X. I'll put this in the chat. Oh, why am I not seeing? Interesting. I see questions over here. Let me go to YouTube because StreamYard is not showing me questions, funny enough. Huh. Sorry if you've been asking them. I just haven't seen them yet because StreamYard hasn't showed them to me. I only see them because it's saying show comments on stage. Let me switch between. There they are. Okay. Yeah, I see Luggage question. Just a second. I'll take a look. Where is my validator? Okay, must be coming up because I remember that meme. So this one, this should be the thread, yeah, where I posted a ton of my different validator content. Yeah, so that you got the earnings estimates, you got all that stuff as well. You know, how much PLS depends on the price, like how much earnings can you make depends on the price, depends on how many validators, depends on your cost, other stuff like that. Outage monitoring, different factors for profitability. Again, network API. We didn't talk about that. Let me touch on that real quick, and I'll get to the question before we wrap up. Where's validators? Yeah. So right now there are 47,261 active validators all across the world, many different countries and continents. Pretty amazing. And it says APR is around 10%. Again, I think this is a hard number to come up with overall. So I would say it's between 5 and 10% if I were to guess, pure guess. But yeah, it's kind of hard to say. And you can see the different ones. So this is a graffiti. So my script doesn't use graffiti. Otherwise, it may be on this list. I'm not sure. I don't have any metrics. I kind of made it like that because I like I don't know. I think the original idea was like OPSEC or just being anonymous validator type stuff where, you know, yeah, that's there. So anyways, a ton of people have a ton of different validators. A lot of them are running. So validatorstore.com, that is the graffiti. That is just, you know, there are a ton of validators that David Feeder with Validator Store apparently have used the instructions or are hosting or brought online or in some form. So pretty cool. Ton of different validators there. And yeah, a ton of different people too. Robert Online, a lot of different people. So that's pretty cool. Again, my script doesn't show up here. I don't know what the numbers would be if it did. I'd like to think it would show up on the list, but I'm not sure. If I were to speculate, probably somewhere here, maybe in the hundreds, I would say. Because I know, especially in the beginning, I was getting a lot of questions, helping a lot of people with it. And yeah, these days, like I said, and now that the APR on the hex has been slashed by the big stakes, and the ink inflation has been slashed by the knobs turning, of the core products, validators are one of the highest earning APRs. So there's that. And the fees, you get to earn fees. It's pretty cool. You get to earn like fees just by validating the network. Like they come from just people paying fees. You just earn PLS. It's pretty cool. So a ton of fees in April. What happened on April 21st? exactly 1 month ago. What happened there? There was so many fees. Did somebody just fat finger a priority fee or something? Anyway, there's a ton of different things to go into on validators and different nuance, and a lot of great technical discussions. Again, I've had before, I've documented, or again, you can add me on Twitter to talk about, but pretty cool indeed. All right, now that I can see comments, good grad, appreciate that, Logie33. The recent Petra upgrade, the recent ETH upgrade Petra will be validators need to update something in general. How would I have to have? How in general? How would I know I have to update my validators? Great question. So I don't believe that PulseChain has taken any upgrades from any of the Ethereum protocol changes. We have taken upgrades from the clients that have made fixes, bug fixes, and stuff like that. But I don't think we have taken any of the like Petra or I forget the other ones in the network. I don't. Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I don't think we've taken any big upgrades, especially that one. So if we haven't taken them, so okay, let's go to so where the clients come from. Where does it pull? Let's go to the script real quick. So where does it pull these clients from? It pulls the Geth client from GitLab on the PulseChain.com Go Pulse repo. And we can check and see, this is where you would see, like, how do you know when there's updates? You can see there'd be new releases here. And the latest release for Geth for PulseChain was, this is a year ago. So February 23rd. So over a year ago was the latest upgrade for Geth. And that was, let's see, actually full support for Cancun upgrade. I guess we did get Cancun upgrade. Maybe that's the biggest one we've got since the PulseChain launched. So maybe we did. Okay, I'll say it like this. We haven't gotten any of the upgrades past Cancun. Actually, that's a great question to ask. What have been the upgrades since Cancun? Oh, where's my AI buddy? I don't know. Let's do a new one. What Ethereum upgrades since Cancun with timeline? Instead of Googling, just AIing the new Google. So Cancun and Dinkin. Oh yeah, the Dinkin upgrade. So it's only been those two. It's only been Petra. So I guess there's only been Dinkin and Petra. So it's only been the Dank sharding ones that we haven't. Dank sharding and yeah, this is a big one. So Petra is the maximum stake, and then also you can pay with gas with other coins thing, I believe is on that one too. Has there only been those two? So since hold on, let's look at the merge. I can't read that. Merge. So we're at the surge. Man, give me some. All right, let me just say this. I gotta wrap up very soon. What upgrades has PulseChain Geth client not got? Let's see if it tells me. Several upgrades, including up to the Dinkin upgrade in 2024. So is Cancun Dinkin, is that the same thing? So March 2024. Okay, so EIP 4844. Is that, it doesn't say EIP 44. I guess we can just guess and say that that's correct though. So it doesn't have Petra. So is that it? Just on Petra? Maybe it's just been a long time since we've had major upgrades from Ethereum too. I feel like we've had more than that, but maybe there has only been that big one. So how will you know when there's upgrades? You could monitor the clients, but you'll see, I mean, how do I know when there are upgrades? When I see people tweeting about it. When I see posts in X about that, and then, or Richard tweets about it, or Brett Tapp or somebody else tweets about it. And I'm like, oh, there's upgrades. Or you can monitor this. But this is for the Geth, for GoPulse, and then for Lighthouse, the other client. So those are the two. There's client diversity. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Type in RHMax validator client diversity. You can see what's different in using different clients. Why do we have 4 different ones, 2 in each category? Other client diversity stuff. And then this one. So this is 11 months ago for this client. Yeah. So yeah, you can just monitor this, or that's how I keep up with it, just on X and stuff too. Great questions though. Anyways, that's the basics. How to earn, what it takes, what the process is, the scripts, resources, a ton of content on how to do it. So check it out, and appreciate that, Logie. Thank you very much. If you have any other questions, you can @ me on Twitter @ RHMaximalist. You can comment on the video, and no expectations, but I will, yeah, if there's something I haven't answered or otherwise talk about, then I might have to do that. All right, everyone, that ends today's stream. 3 for 3, baby. 3 for 3. Got a couple coming up this week, and it should be fun. That's all I got for you today. Sci-Vibe and 5555. We are out.